A very good morning to my dear students of class 12 science. Welcome to biology class. So we will start with the unit ecology and environment with the chapter organisms and populations, chapter number 13. Clear? So before going to the chapter, what does ecology and environment means? Okay, so before that, what do you mean by ecosystem? Ecosystem means the interactions between the biotic and the abiotic components along with their environment. Okay, so what do you mean by ecology? So ecology means the study of those interactions between the living and the non-living organisms along with their environment. So the ecology mainly deals with the study of those interactions and the interrelationship between the organisms, not only between the organisms but also with the environment, because we are always influenced by the environment where we used to live. Okay, so environment means the surroundings of our habitat, and we can define environment as those external forces of the surroundings which influence the life of an organism directly or indirectly. Clear? And therefore the study of relationship of the living organisms with their environment is known as environmental biology. Clear? So now next one is habitat. Now what does habitat means? Generally when we define habitat, we used to say that habitat is a place where we used to live, okay, or where we used to survive. So what does habitat mean? So habitat of an organisms or the community is the place or the physical locations where it actually lives. That means the place where we used to live, where we used to survive is known as the habitat. Each and every organisms, each and every species has got its own particular habitat. Clear? For example, we can say over here that the larvae of insect chironomus are adapted to live in the water with little oxygen. So this is their particular habitat. Clear? Hilsa, a fish, lives in both freshwater and brackish water. So this is their particular habitat. So organisms are adapted to live in their specific habitat or in their particular habitat. Clear? Now next what do you mean by niche? Okay, so niche means the physical positions or the status or the rank that a specific organisms or the species occupies within their community or within their habitat. Clear? And within a habitat we can find a variety of species. That means a habitat contains many niches, and that niche can support a variety of species. So within a habitat we are finding the niche, and that niche is mainly supporting a variety of species, more than one particular species. So niche means the physical positions or the rank or the status that the species occupies within the community or within the habitat or within the ecosystem. Clear? And a habitat can support many niches, and that niche will support a variety of species. It can support more than one species. Okay, so that example is given over here that 7 species of millipedes occurring on a floor of oak forest were found to fit in different layers of decaying litter. So here you can see that a habitat has got several niches, and that niche is supporting more than one species, that it is supporting more than 7 species of millipedes. So habitat has got a niche, and that niche will support a variety of species. So go through the definition of habitat and the definition of niche. Okay, this is there in your syllabus. Now we will go with the next topic, that is living components of ecosystem, and under this one you have to go with the population and the attributes of populations. So within the chapters most of the topics has been removed, so kindly follow the new further reduced syllabus. I've been telling you continuously in the class also, I have told you about this one. So go to the syllabus. Okay, so in this chapter also most of the topic has been removed, so kindly follow the new syllabus. Okay, so now we are going to start with the living component of ecosystem. So first one is population. So what do you mean by population? Okay, so population means a group of organisms of the same species, not of the different species. So when we are describing about the population, then population means the group of organisms of the same species. Clear? So when we talk about the human populations, we will only consider the human beings. We will not consider the other living organisms like the tiger, lion, elephant. When we consider the population of tiger, we will just count the number of tigers. Clear? We are not going to count the number of lions. So populations means the group of organisms that belongs to the same species and that inhabit a particular geographical area at a particular time. Alright, and therefore the group of organisms in a particular populations, they are able to interbreed, they are able to show sexual mode of reproductions. Clear? So all the members of our populations, they used to share the same gene pool and they have got the same ecological requirements. Alright, so population means the group of organisms that belong to the same species that occupy a particular geographical area, a particular habitat at a particular time, or at a given time, and they are able to interbreed and they are able to produce a fertile offspring. Clear? And what are the attributes of a population? Our population has got different attributes, okay, that individuals usually show. So what are those attributes? Now we are going to discuss. So first attributes of the population is the birth and the death rate. So when we consider about individual organisms, okay, so we are going to discuss about the first attribute of population, that is birth and the death rate. So when we are going to discuss about an individual, not about the organisms, when we will consider an individual organism, that individual organisms will have a birth and a death. Okay, individual may be given birth or an individuals may usually be dead. But when we consider the entire population of a group of organisms, then that particular populations will have a birth rate and a death rate. Individually they have birth and death, but when we consider the population, a group of organisms, then that populations will have a birth rate and a death rate. Okay, and in a population, birth and death refers to the per capita birth and the per capita death respectively, and the birth rate and the death rate will generally affect the population. So there will be a change in the number. That means the population can increase or the population can decrease. Okay, so just for example, I'm going to say over there that in a pond there were 20 lotus plants last year. Okay, so last year there was 20 lotus plant, and now due to the process of reproductions, now 8 new plants has been added to the population, so taking the population count to 28. So what will be the birth rate of that particular plant? So the birth rate of lotus plant will be 0.4 offspring per lotus per year. So this is the birth rate of a population. Okay, so population has got birth and death rate. Then we'll go to the sex ratio. Now sex ratio denotes the number of male and females in a population. The ratio of number of male and females in a population is called the sex ratio. Okay, when we consider the individual, then individuals may be male or a female, but when we consider the population as a whole, then that populations will have a sex ratio of male and female. Okay, then the third attribute of population is age distribution, the age composition, because in a particular populations we have got three groups of or three age groups, okay, of organisms. We have got pre-reproductive age group, we have got reproductive age group, and the post-reproductive age group. So depending upon the age distributions, we have got three kinds of populations. One is called the expanding or the growing population, then we have got the stable or the stationary populations, and we have got the declining population. So now we are going to talk about the expanding or the growing population. So this particular expanding populations or the growing population has the high birth rate. Okay, they got high birth rate and they have got low death rate. So there is more number of young individuals in the population. So you can see over here that they have got high number of individuals belonging to the pre-reproductive group. Okay, so they have got high birth rate and this population is always growing. Then we have got stable population where they have got equal death rate and birth rate, and such a population shows zero population growth. The last one is the declining population where there will be higher death rate compared to the birth rate, and in this population the number of young peoples will be less. So the number of old members will be more and the number of young ones will be less in the declining population. Now when we will distribute the organisms or the populations according to the different age groups, and when it is plotted we will get a particular pyramid. Okay, and that pyramid is called the age pyramid, because we know that the population is mainly composed of pre-reproductive, reproductive and the post-reproductive group. So whenever we are going to distribute these organisms having the different age groups, alright, and when we have to plot it, we are getting the structure which is called the age pyramid, and this age pyramid will represent the pre-reproductive age group at the base, then reproductive group in the middle, and the post-reproductive group at the top. I'll show you. So if you look over here, so at the base, so this is the base, okay, so this is the base, so this will represent our pre-reproductive group. At the middle, it will represent our reproductive group, and at the top it will represent the post reproductive group. Clear? So this is the distribution of our age pyramid group. Okay, so now we'll discuss about this pyramid. So we have got three types of pyramids generally. So in human populations we have got three types of pyramids, that is the triangular age pyramid, okay, then we have got the bell-shaped age pyramid, and we have got the urn-shaped age pyramid. So we are going to discuss it one by one. So first we'll discuss about the triangular age pyramid. So triangular age pyramids represent the rapidly growing or the expanding populations, okay, in which the birth rate will be always higher than the death rate. Okay, so in such populations, successive generations will have the less number of old persons. Clear? So this triangular age pyramid shows a young or the growing populations, because we are saying that this particular pyramid has got high birth rate compared to the death rate, and it has got higher number of young generations than the old one. Then we have got the bell-shaped age pyramid, where we have got equal birth rate and the death rate. Okay, the pre-reproductive and the reproductive age groups are more or less the same, and the post-reproductive group remains the smallest. Okay, so this particular bell-shaped age pyramid represents a stable or the mature populations. Then we have got the urn-shaped age pyramid, where the birth rate is drastically cut or reduced. So over here the death rate will be more than the birth rate. So the reproductive and the post-reproductive group in these populations will be usually lesser in number. Okay, so since it said that the reproductive and the post-reproductive group increase in proportion to the pre-reproductive age group, and the pyramid will take the urn-shaped form, and such a pyramid shows diminishing populations. So we have got triangular shaped age pyramid, we have got bell-shaped age pyramid, and the urn-shaped age pyramid. The triangular shaped age pyramid shows that the population is usually growing in number. It has got more number of younger individuals. The birth rate is higher than the death rate. And when we come into the bell-shaped age pyramid, it shows that the birth rate and the death rate will be equal. Okay, and it shows the stable population or the mature populations. And when we go into the urn-shaped age pyramid, here the birth rate is drastically reduced or cut off. Okay, and we said that the reproductive and the post-reproductive group will increase in proportion as compared to the pre-reproductive age group, and such a population shows the diminishing population. Okay, so we have finished about the age pyramid and the age distributions. Now we'll go next attributes, which is called the population size or the population density. So here you have to remember the definition of population density and the parameters to measure the population density. So what do you mean by population density? So population density, it represents the number of individuals or biomass of a species per unit area or volume at a given time. So kindly remember the definition of population density. It represents the number of individuals or biomass of a species. Okay, so population size or the population density will represent the number of individuals or biomass of a species per unit area or volume at a given time. Clear? And there are mainly two ways of expressing the population density: the crude density and the ecological density. The crude density is the total number of individuals or biomass per unit area or total volume, and the ecological density is the number of individuals of a species actually inhabiting an ecological area or volume. So how can we measure the population density or the population size? So here you have to go to the formula that population density, which equals to number of individuals in a population by the area occupied. occupied. So this is the parameter or the measurement of population density. Okay, so density of population not only varies with the seasons but also tends to decrease or increase in a longer span of time. So can you remember that how can we measure the population density? It's mainly measured by the number of individuals in a populations by the area occupied. Now let's go to the significance of population density. Now the population density significance is that it indicates the successful nature of population and suggests the future of birth rate and the death rate. But this particular population density is affected by natality, the birth rate, immigration, mortality, and immigration. So here if you get this sign, the plus sign, and we'll get the minus sign. What does this means? What does the positive sign and the negative sign indicates in the population density? So when we have got the higher natality and immigration, then the population size or the density will increase. But when there will be more mortality and immigration, then the population size will decrease. These four factors will affect the population density of a particular area. So we'll go through the term one by one. Clear? So first we'll learn about population growth, because the population is usually not static, it will keep on changing. Okay, it will either increase or either decrease. So depending upon the time, depending upon the various factors like food availability, space, predator, okay, the population of size will tend to increase or will tend to decrease. It is not static, it will always keep on changing. So that's why we are saying that the population size are affected by natality, mortality, immigration, and immigration. So what does natality means? So natality means the birth rate, the number of birth during a given period. Okay, so natality means the birth rate, the number of birth during a given period in a population. Okay, and when there will be more birth rate, then there will be increase in the population density. Now what is mortality? Mortality means the death rate, the number of deaths in a population during a given period of time. And when there will be more mortality, there will be a decrease in the population density. Now what is immigration? It means the number of individuals of the same species that enters a habitat from the other habitat. So if any individual from the other habitat comes to our habitat, then that is called immigration. And when there will be more immigration, then it will increase the population density. And what is immigration? It means that whenever any species from our habitat goes to the other habitat, then that is called immigration. And when any species, okay, when any organism from our habitat goes to the other habitat, then there will decrease in the population density. So natality and immigration will increase the population density, but mortality and immigration will decrease the population density. And these four factors will affect our population size also, or growth of the population. So that's why here we are saying that when there will be more natality, when there will be more immigration, then the population density will increase. But when there will be more mortality, when there will be more immigration, then the population size will decrease. So that's why it is indicated by negative sign, and natality and immigration is indicated by positive sign. So these four factors will affect the population density. Okay, so keep this in your mind. Now next one, the formula population density at any time t. So let's see, if n is the population density at a time t, then the density at time t plus 1 is given by the formula nt plus 1 equals to nt plus b plus I minus d plus e. So that is change in population size equals to birth. B means birth plus I means immigration, D means death plus E means immigration. So from this particular equation we can say that the population density increases if the number of birth plus immigration is more than the number of death plus immigration. Okay, so if in a new habitat where the organisms are moving in, then immigration will contribute to the increase in the population size. So B plus I has to be more than D plus E if the population density or the size needs to be increased. But if D plus E will be more than B plus I, then the population size will decrease. So these are the four factors. B means birth rate, I means immigration, D means death rate, is mortality, and E means immigration. So these four factors will generally affect the population size or the density or the population growth. Clear? Okay, now next one we'll talk about the growth models of our populations. Okay, because the growth of a population with time shows specific patterns. So we have got two types of growth models. One is called the exponential growth model, and the second one is called the logistic growth model, or the S-shaped growth model, or the sigmoid growth model. Okay, so first we'll learn about the exponential growth model. So while developing the theory of natural selection by Charles Darwin, he observed that under optimum condition of food and space, that means when the resources are unlimited in nature, the species has the potential to grow and they have the potential to reproduce at its maximum. It's saying that in exponential growth, the food and the space will be unlimited. Okay, it is unlimited, and when these resources will be in unlimited amount, then obviously the species can grow, they can reproduce at its maximum. They will usually multiply in a geometric fashion. That means they multiply from 1 to 2, then from 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32, 32 to 64, and it will keep on increasing, so on. This is called the geometric way of increasing populations, clear, under exponential growth, because here the resources are unlimited. So when the resources are unlimited, there will be no competition, clear. So that's why the species are able to survive to its maximum, they are able to grow to its maximum, and they are able to reproduce. All right, so therefore, how can we measure the exponential growth form? So it's mainly given by an equation called dn by dt equals to Rn. This is the equation for exponential growth form. Can you remember? The equation is dn by dt equals to Rn, where b and d means the birth rate and the death rate. Okay, R is the intrinsic rate of natural resources. Can you remember the equation? Okay, so here you can see that this plot number A, dn by dt equals to Rn, it represents the exponential growth form, where you can see that the population is usually increasing. Why? Because the food and the spaces are unlimited, the population will keep on growing and can reproduce up to its maximum. Alright, and here the most important point here, remember, is R, which is called the intrinsic rate of natural resources. And what does R means? It's an important parameter that helps to assess the impact of biotic or abiotic factor on the population growth. So can you remember the equation of exponential growth form, dn by dt equals to Rn, where R represents the intrinsic rate of natural factor, and that is the parameter which will help us to assess the impact of biotic and the abiotic factor on the population growth. And always in exponential growth form, the resources will be unlimited, clear, and there will be a geometric fashion of increase in the population. Okay, it will increase from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, and hence so on. Clear? Then we'll go to the logistic growth form, or the S-shaped or the sigmoid growth form. Now in case of exponential growth form, the resources was unlimited, clear, but here in logistic growth form or growth curve, the resources will be not unlimited, they will be limited. Okay, so in nature, habitats are species specific and have resources up to a limit. So it says that in logistic growth form, habitat will have a specific species, and therefore the resources will not be unlimited, they are limited in nature. And since the resources are limited, they can support a maximum number of individuals to grow and reproduce, and beyond which no further growth will be possible. So this limit of habitat to sustain or substitute a part of a species is called carrying capacity. So remember, what does carrying capacity means? It means a particular limit up to which the species or particular habitat can sustain or subsist the species, because the resources are not unlimited in nature, they are limited. Okay, so the growth resources in nature are finite and become limited sooner or later. Okay, because it depends on the way we are using the resources. If we will keep on continuously using the resources, then obviously it will decrease. So this will lead to the competition among the species. Obviously, when there will be a limited number of food and space, then there will be competition between the species. Okay, and those who are fit, they will survive, and it will stabilize the population. And this type of population growth is also called Verhulst-Paul logistic growth model, and it is represented by the equation dn by dt equals to Rn k minus n by k, where n is the population density at time t, R is the intrinsic rate of natural resources, and most important, k is the carrying capacity. So remember this one. Okay, so look over here. So this is the S-shaped form which you can see over here. Can you see over here? This is the S-shaped form. So this is called the logistic growth model. dn by dt equals to Rn k minus n by k. And in the examinations, they will show that between the exponential growth one and logistic growth one, which one is more reliable and which one is more logistic. Okay, which one is more reliable? Obviously, in nature, resources are limited. Okay, they are not unlimited. So obviously the logistic growth form is more reliable than that of the exponential growth one. Clear? So here we have finished about the populations and the attributes of populations, and kindly go to table number 13.15 to learn the difference between natality and mortality. Natality means death rate, birth rate, and mortality means the death rate. Then we have got the table number 13.16, where you will find the difference between immigration and the immigration. So kindly go to this table. So here we have finished about the definition of ecology, definition of environment, habitat, niche, and we have learned about the population and the population attributes. Clear? So this much for today's class. We'll continue with the same chapter in the next class. Thank you, and see you in next class.